Frustrating, isn't it? The people who think they can walk all over you, testing your patience and pushing your boundaries. But what if I told you that you don't have to tolerate this? You can handle them with ease and keep your peace intact. The longer you let others treat you like this, the more it drains your energy and confidence. If you don't set clear boundaries, you risk letting their disrespect become the norm in your life. But there's a way out, one that leaves you standing tall, unshaken, and in control. So, are you ready to stop letting people disrespect you and start taking charge of how you're treated? Let's dive into 5 powerful ways you can handle anyone who crosses the line and reclaim your space. The first is to welcome the silent stare. Okay, I'll begin with the silent gaze, which is one of my favorite little brutal methods of all time. You may be asking, really, at this point, looking intently. Believe me when I say this. The most effective way to interrupt someone who is being blatantly disrespectful or unpleasant is to give them a long, calm, unfazed stare. The reason it works is that people who act disrespectfully toward others often want to provoke a response. They hope you'll fumble your words, blush, and perhaps even fall flat on your face. They hope you'll get caught up in their drama and start to doubt or feel inadequate as a result. However, the power dynamic changes dramatically when you gaze at them without using any words or facial expressions. I know this seems a bit passive, aggressive, but bear with me. An individual's failure to provide the anticipated response might be exceedingly unnerving. Maintaining a fixed, expressionless gaze is like silently declaring, "I'm not playing this game with you." It's a subtle method of taking charge again. At other times, the most forceful no you can utter is a blank stare. Allow me to share an instance where this method yielded remarkable results. I was in the middle of a group discussion when this one guy just wouldn't stop interrupting and talking over me. You know, the one, overly confident, speaks at a boisterous pace and assumed everyone is listening to his words of wisdom. He wouldn't stop talking, no matter how courteous or interjecting I was. At last, I merely met his gaze. I drew in my chair, crossed my arms, and stared fixedly into his eyes for 5 seconds straight, without flinching or making an expression. Silence eluded me. The anticipation was palpable, and the finest part. The other diners at the table also began to study him, as if they were curious about his next move. And you know what transpired. In an effort to hide his discomfort, he fumbled over his words and abruptly turned his head away from me. For the remainder of the meeting, he refrained from interrupting me, beyond immediately halting his conduct. That expressionless stare had a greater impact than any words could have. It was as if he had finally come to terms with the fact that I wasn't someone he could bulldoze. After that, he began to treat me with more respect. There are moments when your actions speak louder than words. There's more going on here than meets the eye. Let's investigate more. Reminding yourself and others that you are free to move to your own beat is what the silent stare is all about. You are under no obligation to respond emotionally, and you are under no obligation to demonstrate your value to others who do not see it. Take back control of your life by recovering your personal space, tranquility, and respect. We tend to get defensive, argue our case, or even worse, just let it go since we don't want to cause a fuss when someone is disrespectful to us. However, the unspoken look, being aggressive, is not the point. Demonstrating composure, calmness, and unflinching mastery over your emotions is the key. Accountability is another important aspect. Disrespectful people usually don't give it much thought. They have never been held accountable for their disrespectful behavior toward others. Silently staring at someone with a deadpan expression on your face is like holding up a mirror. All of a sudden, they're on their own to deal with their actions. Most people hate to see themselves in a negative light, and you're not merely showing them that they're incorrect when you do this. Therefore, this is effective. Silent staring accomplishes more than merely making the other person withdraw their gaze. At least in my experience. Additionally, it boosts your confidence. By remaining motionless and mute, you are sending a message to yourself that you are unmoved by what they say or do. In the past, when someone questioned my decisions, I would anxiously try to defend myself or laugh off nasty remarks. But to be honest, it did nothing but deplete my strength and worsen my mood. It was a turning point when I realized I could just stare someone down and hold my own, no matter how quiet the room got. A subtle but strong statement of self-respect. It seems like a little act of rebellion. Thus, attempt the quiet look the next time someone is disrespectful, pushes your limits, or makes you feel inferior. Then you should see them. Send a calming vibe their way. It will make them feel awkward, but it will give you a sense of strength that you won't expect. The message conveyed by maintaining eye contact is one of self-respect, which is paramount in avoiding negativity. 2. Try being silent instead of speaking. A small, underappreciated secret weapon is silence. One of the strongest reactions to disrespect is to remain silent. Listen, I get it. Being silent seems so docile, like you're allowing them to get away with it, doesn't it? Silence, however, is anything but passive. It is an option, and at times it is the most audacious response you can offer. A person's attempt to draw you into their drama, make you feel insignificant, or provoke defensiveness is when they spew negativity at you. On the other hand, when you remain mute and answerless to what they say, it leaves them to deal with the consequences of their actions alone. And that stillness, it's too loud. People who insult others typically anticipate a response, and that is why this works so well. They want an argument, an excuse, or even justification for what they're doing. Silence, on the other hand, indicates I'm not giving you my energy. By being silent, you assert your dominance in the conversation and state, I'm not here to entertain your disrespect. At times, the most effective method of communication is simply to remain silent. They are unworthy of your attention and words, and it's a subtle way to let them know that. I recall a time when I was around someone who couldn't help but make these subtle digs. You know the type. The one who attempts to pass off their hurtful comments as humorous and light-hearted. So one day, he says something totally baseless about my job, obviously meant to make me mad. This time, instead of trying to explain myself or responding with a statement, I simply raised an eyebrow, stared at him, and said nothing. I allowed him to experience that uncomfortable weight while his comments lingered in the air, and guess what? The next step was unclear to him. As he glanced down at me, he said something and continued on. That was his final attempt at pulling that stunt on me. It was as if he came to the realization that he couldn't gain any power from my silence because it begs for attention, and that's the beauty of it. Here's the meat of the matter. Being silent is a choice you make for yourself. Proclaiming, I value my peace over your opinion of me, is a bold and transformative statement. There are a lot of individuals in the world that don't care about treating us with respect, and yet we still feel the need to answer, explain, defend, or prove ourselves to them. However, you are rejecting their rules by choosing quiet. Without even moving an arm, you're making a statement. By telling them, you're not worth my words, you're not just taking charge of the situation, you're also reclaiming your power. Being silent acts as a filter. It protects you from the negativity that other people try to bring out in you, so you can preserve your serenity. You will liberate yourself the instant you decide not to react to every nasty remark or passive-aggressive jibe. You begin to live your life according to your own terms and cease letting other people into your inner world. I'll tell you what, I had a hard time figuring out how to employ silence. When I was younger, I believed that standing up for myself would make me appear weak and passive. However, I did notice something intriguing. I would always feel exhausted and irritated after responding to anyone who insulted me. Silencing myself and allowing their criticisms to drift past like background noise made me feel better, lighter, stronger, and more in charge. Each time I opted for quiet rather than emotion, it was as if I reclaimed some of my authority. I dare you to take a moment to collect yourself the next time someone treats you disrespectfully. Breathe deeply Meet their gaze and remain silent. Allow your stillness to convey your message. How liberating it feels and how uneasy they get could catch you off guard. Sometimes the strongest remark is the one that is unsaid. Therefore, embrace silence as an answer. Listen, many of us may relate to this. Quit justifying your decisions. Seriously, how often have you made a choice on your own and then had someone ask you, why? The truth is, people don't deserve an explanation for everything we do. They just want to know why we did or didn't do something. Nobody has a right to demand an explanation from you when it comes to the decisions you make in your life. This may come across as contentious, but let's be honest. People who challenge your decisions are usually not trying to understand you. They intend to pass judgment. They want you to question your own judgment so they may feel better about themselves, or they want to find weaknesses in your arguments so they can attack them. Meanwhile, did you hear? No need for you to participate. You demonstrate that your life isn't debatable and regain your autonomy when you cease explaining yourself. Let's delve a little further into the initial motivation for people's sense of entitlement to an explanation. When people criticize your decisions, it's usually because they disagree with your worldview. Possibly, you're doing something they're too afraid to do, or you're breaking with the routine they find so reassuring. If you're too free, spirited, or willing to do new things, they may feel uneasy and try to force you back into their routine by asking you to explain everything. The thing is, you shouldn't feel obligated to soothe someone simply because they are uneasy. This is not a say about your life. There is no one to whom you must account for your decisions. I still vividly recall the day I made the decision to leave a secure position for one that I was truly enthusiastic about, despite the fact that it was a far more daring move. As soon as word got out, it was as if I'd said I was relocating to Mars. Questions like, why would you leave a stable job? How are you going to make it work? Prompted me to attempt explanations like wanting something more satisfying and having a plan. However, I soon learned that my words were never adequate. It seemed like everyone was trying to find fault with me and make me feel like I had to prove myself. The more I tried to explain. After that, I made up my mind to branch out one day. In response to the question, but why would you leave that job? I simply said, because I wanted to. I spared no explanation or strategy behind my response. It was straightforward, and I must say, it was an incredible sensation. Everything changed when the subsequent hush set in. Because I had removed their ability to challenge my decisions, people were at a loss for how to react. And guess what? They ceased inquiring after a while. The liberating quality of not having to explain yourself is its true beauty. Knowing that the choices you've made are sufficient in and of themselves is standing firm in your own truth. Embrace your true self without the burden of other people's expectations when you let go of the need to defend your behavior. You quit squandering time trying to explain things and start putting all that energy into making your dreams a reality. You don't need an audience vote to live your life, and that is a significant lesson. Others don't need to weigh in on every move or give their stamp of approval. Plus, when you cut off explanations, it's like saying, I know what I'm doing. I don't need your stamp of approval. Consider, when was the last occasion you witnessed an incredibly self-assured somebody explaining their choices to someone else? Very unlikely. Why? Because self-reliant individuals don't seek approval from others. For them, their own approval is all that really counts. Listen, I know what it's like. In the past, when I needed people to support my initiatives, I would deliver lengthy PowerPoint presentations outlining my rationale. However, as time went on, I came to understand that justifying my single move was really making me doubt my decisions. So I promised myself that the next time someone asks me about a decision, I will only offer a brief explanation. No more than a phrase or two. When they insist on more, I just grin and go on. Meanwhile, did you hear? things became more easier. I felt more and more secure in my choices as I stopped trying to justify them. My challenge to you is this: when someone challenges your decisions, hold back from giving an explanation. Speak simply because I wanted to, or that's what felt right for me, and allow the quiet to convey your thoughts. Notice the impact of that one statement. You'll experience a sense of empowerment, mastery, and inner tranquility. The most exciting aspect. After a while, you'll see that other people aren't necessary to validate your decisions. Your creation alone gives them validity, which brings us to the fourth point. Stay away from me. The truth is that there are occasions when avoiding rude individuals is the wisest course of action. The reality is, not everyone deserves to be on the front row of your life. And I know that seems harsh and maybe even frigid. The healthiest thing to do if someone is rude to you on a regular basis is to distance yourself from them. Taking precautions to preserve your energy is a sign of self-respect, not animosity or exaggeration. Being distant doesn't imply you're uncaring or uninterested in other people. It means you're selective about how you use your time and energy. Pretend that your life is an exclusive club where only invited guests are allowed entry. No way would you stay close to someone who is always invading your space, bringing you down, or just spreading negativity. Feel free to take a step back. I think it's really important. With some space between you and the situation, you may view things more clearly, unclouded by guilt or emotional manipulation. Consider this. Surrounding yourself with disrespectful individuals is like giving them free rein to criticize, judge, and grab anything they want from your mind and emotions. After that, we don't understand why we're exhausted, nervous, or irritated. A self-preservation measure would be to separate oneself from these individuals. It's about surrounding yourself with supportive individuals who will boost you up and appreciate you, keeping your peace and taking care of your mental health. Releasing the shame associated with separating oneself might feel freeing. No one is forcing you to maintain relationships with rude or otherwise unruly people. Allow me to tell you a tale. A friend of mine used to be quick to find a way to criticize my every move, whether it was in my professional life, my personal relationships, or even my musical preferences. Well, that's just how they are. Maybe I'm overreacting, I told myself at first, and I continued to keep them around and attempt to ignore the situation as if it weren't significant. But eventually, their nipples began to irritate me. I became very aware of how delicate my balance was, constantly preparing myself for the inevitable barrage of criticism or the joke that threatened to sting like a punch. I finally decided to try something new. I simply began to spend less time with them. I didn't declare it or publicly shame them. I would visit them once a month instead of weekly. But you know what? Suddenly, I felt like I was floating. I was able to let go and see how poisonous the friendship had grown in that newfound independence. I needed friends who would encourage me rather than depress me, and the space I created allowed me to recognize this. Let me get this straight. There will be others who accuse you of being selfish for choosing to keep your distance. It can be awkward, perhaps even taboo, to accept that someone you know well isn't beneficial for you. People may say things like, "But they're family," or "You've been friends for years." Everyone urges us to be kind, loyal, and forgiving. But how much does it really cost? Keeping your peace isn't a sign of weakness. It's an absolute need. Your purpose in being here is not to be someone's emotional scapegoat or to validate them all the time. Taking a step back is sometimes all it takes to let someone know you've had enough. It gets serious when you realize that maintaining your distance sends a strong message that you are the only one who matters. No one is forcing you to act in a certain way. Nobody has a right to invade your privacy and control your thoughts, feelings, and time. Putting some distance between yourself and rude people is a sign that you value your own health and happiness more than theirs. Not only is that self-respecting, but it's also self-care. Also, getting some space allows you to reevaluate your priorities and give your whole attention to the connections that truly enrich your life. Consider, being in the company of respectful individuals increases your sense of self-worth and happiness. You may lessen the influence of negative people on your mind, spirit, and life by limiting your interactions with them. I used to have a hard time letting go of people, no matter how badly they treated me. What if they think I don't care? Or maybe I'm overreacting? However, as time went on, I realized that putting some distance between myself and negative people wasn't merely about eliminating negativity. It was also about making room for positive change. A new sense of liberation washed over me as I allowed myself to separate from rude people, feeling refreshed, at peace, and with a better idea of what I wanted out of life. I had all three. So, I present to you this challenge. Consider the individuals in your life that consistently show you contempt, diminish your worth, or deplete your energy. Afterwards, you should consider whether they truly merit such extensive access to me. Fifthly, keep your chin up. Now, let's talk about something that has stood the test of time. Holding your head high. This may sound like trite advice, but it's worth repeating because it works wonders when dealing with disrespectful people. The issue is, when others treat you disrespectfully, they are intentionally trying to bring out your inferiority complex. They want you to have self-doubt, self-pity, and withdraw within yourself. No matter what you say or do, standing tall and proudly conveys the message, I know exactly who I am, and nothing you say or do will make me feel less. Here's the thing. Confident people, particularly those who insult others, make other people feel uneasy. Why? Because they think they can control you, or at least influence you with their words or deeds. You may demonstrate that they are powerless over you when you stand higher and keep your head held high in the face of their contempt. Those who take pleasure in treating you disrespectfully have no idea how to handle the fact that you're unbreakable. Instead of questioning your authority, it unsettles them and makes them doubt their own. I was formerly involved with someone who couldn't help but insult me whenever we crossed paths. That kind of person. Constantly grinning, always making a joke that seems more like an assault. I used to pretend it didn't bother me, but I'll admit it eventually did. I hated being in their presence because I felt like I had to protect myself at all times. I used to feel inadequate, but I finally decided I had enough. I arrived with my head held high and my shoulders back, and whenever they made one of their inane remarks, I simply met their gaze, grinned, and continued as if nothing had transpired. Did you hear about what transpired? They began to retreat, in fact. It's as if they sensed that I was too far above their ridiculous remarks to continue receiving them. They lost all power all of a sudden. Carrying oneself with confidence exudes an irresistible charm. In a way, it acts as an invisible barrier that declares, I'm untouchable. This is where things start to heat up a bit. Those that do not value you frequently despise it when you exude self-assurance. It throws their perspective off. When you carry yourself with assurance, it challenges their belief that they are superior to you and that they have an advantage. They find it nearly insulting. People who are unabashedly confident in themselves can be a challenge for society, particularly when they refuse to be defined by the negative of others. Truthfully, that can make you an easy target. However, you should know that keeping your head held high isn't about them. Focus on yourself. One radical act of self-respect is to live as though one is completely aware of their value, as though they have nothing to prove. Carrying oneself with confidence says a lot about who you are. You're making a bold statement about how you value yourself, how you deserve respect, and how you are enough just the way you are. The underlying point is that you can't get self-worth from other people. It is yours to claim. You are moving through life with confidence, knowing that you already possess all that you need, regardless of what others may think or say. Keep your chin up. Doing so will serve as a continual reminder that you are the heroine of your own narrative and that you are unaffected by the views of others. Also, its attractiveness. The more you do this, the less noticeable rudeness becomes. No one will be able to derail you because you will be too preoccupied with your own life and confident in your identity. I was unprepared for this. In the past, when individuals were dismissive or judgmental, I would slump, avoid making eye contact, and generally withdraw from the situation. Disappearing seemed like a safer option. But as time went on, I realized that I felt stronger whenever I kept my head up and refused to let other people's negativity crush my soul. I kept telling myself that I could feel deserving regardless of whether anyone else thought I was good enough. Just being myself allowed me to stand tall. When you stand tall, it's not only about your body, it's also about your attitude. Enter each room with an air of natural belonging. Stay true to yourself and don't try to change to match someone else's expectations. Keep your cool if someone makes fun of you. They are projecting their own fears onto you rather than seeing your true self. So why should it trouble you? I dare you to not react the next time someone treats you disrespectfully, whether it's with a subtle jab or an outright insult. Instead, relax your shoulders, breathe deeply, and hold your head up high. Say to yourself, I see you, but I'm above this. When you do, you'll experience a surge of self-assurance and the calm that comes from realizing that what they say can't affect you. By keeping your head up high, you are sending a strong, unspoken message that you value yourself. The message is, I know who I am, I value who I am, I value who I am, and nothing you say can change that. Because respect is something that begins and ends with you. When you value yourself, you make it harder for other people to treat you disrespectfully. Be confident, stand tall, and know that you are worth every penny. Now you know how to deal with those who don't understand, and perhaps never will. Don't waste your precious life putting yourself in harm's way for those who fail to appreciate you. Keep in mind that standing firm, defending your peace, and living life according to your own terms does not require anyone else's approval. Nobody is above trying to knock you down, pushing your limits, and casting doubt on your decisions. That is simply the reality of our world. The point is, though, you have control over the energy you let in and the bar you're held to when it comes to treatment. Optimal aspect. The more you value yourself, the more people will value you too, and they will be the ones to boost you up rather than bring you down. The first step is to accept and embrace your power, and then everything else will work itself out. So, stand tall, welcome quiet when it's necessary, and never feel bad about removing yourself from an unhealthy situation. I really think you should subscribe to this channel. It's a great way to keep going on your journey of self-discovery with our new videos that we upload every day. As soon as you understand the importance of this warning, please respond by writing now. With a little effort, we can definitely get this done.